there's been some chatter about a UNESCO document about a November practice warning event for tsunami in the Pacific region. So let's understand who UNESCO is and what they say about them. Maybe people do not know who they are. Well, let's look and find out if you don't. I'll show you. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. This would be the definition under Wikipedia. A lot of people like to come here, so I chose it to get the information from. I also have another source. We'll go into that in a minute. It's a specialized agency of the United Nations. Stated purpose is to contribute to peace and security by promoting international collaboration through education, science, and culture in order to further universal respect for justice, the rule of law, and the human rights, along with fundamental freedoms proclaimed in the UN Charter. It is the heir of the League of Nations International Commission on Intellectual Cooperation. That's a nice cheesy one. Intellectual cooperation. They have 193 member states and 7 associate members. Most of the field offices are cluster offices. You can go ahead and find that out. Their mission and priority is to contribute to the building of peace, reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development and intercultural dialogue through education, the sciences, culture, communication, and information. The organization focuses in particular on 2 global priorities. The organization focuses in particular on 2 global priorities: Africa and gender equality. Other priorities of the organization include attaining quality education for all and lifelong learning, addressing emerging social and ethical challenges, fostering cultural diversity, a culture of peace, and building inclusive knowledge societies through information and communication. The broad goals and concrete objectives of the international community as set out in the internationally agreed development goals, including the Millennium Development Goals, underpin all UNESCO strategies and activities. Okay. UNESCO and its mandate for international intellectual cooperation can be traced back to the League of Nations resolution on 21 September 1921 to elect a commission to study the question. The International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation was officially created on 4 January 1922 as a consultative organ composed of individuals elected based on their personal qualifications. The International Institute for Intellectual Cooperation was then created in Paris on 9 August 1925 to act as the executing agency for the Institute, or the CICI, On 18 December 1925, the IBE, International Bureau of Education, began working as a non-governmental organization in the service of international educational development. However, the work of these predecessor organizations was largely interrupted by the onset of the Second World War. And that talks about they signed their charter, the Declaration of the United Nations. This is the history. And we come down and we get into activities. We're just going to, they're pretty long. I looked on here before I came on, but we'll go through some stuff. There's quite a bit of stuff. It implements its activities through the 5 program areas of education, natural sciences, social and human sciences, culture, and communication information. They're providing international leadership and creating learning opportunities with educational opportunities for all. Research and comparative education, It goes on and on and on. 8 institutes, different topics of the sector. UNESCO chairs an international network of 644 chairs involving 770 institutions in 126 countries. They're spread out. It's a large organization, the UN. Encouraging the free flow of ideas by images and words. Promoting events such as International Decade for the Promotion of Culture, Peace, and Nonviolence for the Children of the World, 2001 to 2010. Okay, that's all these different days they've got in there, promoting events, founding and funding the projects. The highest form of affiliation to UNESCO is formal associate, and the 22 NGOs with formal associate relations occupying offices at UNESCO are the International Baccalaureate, Coordinating Committee for International Voluntary Service, Education International, International Association of Universities, International Council for Film, Television, and Audiovisual Communication, International Council for Philosophy and Humanistic Studies, International Council for Science and Museums, of Sports Science and Physical Education, Council on Archives, Council on Monuments and Sites, Federation of Journalists, Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, Federation of Poetry Associations, Music Council, Scientific Council for Island Development, Social Science Council, Theater Institute, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, International Union of Technical Associations and Organizations, Union of International Associations. Well, I guess that's a pretty well encompassing one. World Association of Newspapers, World Federation of Engineering Organizations, World Federation of UNESCO Clubs, Centres, and Associations. Okay. And then we go in to read about all the different parts. They have prizes they award, and member states, Directors General. Apparently the Directors General, Irina Bakova. Offices in many locations. Headquarters are located in Paris, France. Through its field offices, UNESCO develops strategies, programs, and activities in consultation with national authorities and other partners. Their field offices are categorized into 4 primary office types based upon their function and geographic coverage: cluster offices, national offices, regional bureau, and liaison offices. Okay. Field offices by region, and they said Africa was one of the top 2 things on their plate. So these are field offices by region. Africa. We got a lot of them. Arab states, we got quite a few. Asia and the Pacific, of course. And then we have Europe and North America, and we already knew about New York City, liaison office to the United Nations in New York. These are the elections. They had one for the renewal of the position of Director General, took place in Paris from 7 September to 23 September 09, and that is why Irina Bakova's name was there. She has been elected since then. She is their top. Israel. Fancy finding you here, huh? Well, let's see what they're putting out on this. They were admitted in 1949, 1 year after its creation. In 1974, UNESCO stripped Israel of its membership on the grounds of alleged damage being done by Israel's archaeological excavations on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. UNESCO defended this decision with two statements in 1974 and 1975, but renewed Israel's membership in 1977 after the U.S. threatened to withhold $40 million of funding from it. The organization has been accused of historical revisionism due to its recent decision to refer to age-old Talmudic scholar Maimonides, I guess that's his name, how you pronounce it, who lived, well, wait a minute, oh, excuse me, who lived in Palestine for part of his life, as Musa bin Mamun, and falsely claimed that Maimonides was of Muslim heritage. 2010, the executive board voted to recognize Rachel's tomb in Bethlehem as the Bilal bin Rabah Mosque and demanded that Israel remove the site from its own list of national heritage sites, even though the site has had Jewish significance for thousands of years on the ground that this unilateral action was a violation of international law. Right. Well, they're not always pals. June 28, 2011, World Heritage Committee condemned Israel's decision to demolish and rebuild the Mughrabi Gate Bridge in Jerusalem for safety reasons. The decision came after Jordan asked UNESCO to censor Israel over the planned renovation and demand that Israel halt archaeological excavation in the Old City, violating an agreement between Israel and Jordan, which stipulated that the existing bridge must be raised for safety reasons, although Jordan claimed that it had only agreed following U.S. pressure. So, you can read on about the little spats that has to do with Israel there. And quite a bit of stuff to go through, but there's quite a bit of information about them. And then we also have this one. Now this is their site. This is the UNESCO site. Building peace in the minds of men and women. World leaders discuss ways of building a culture of peace. Audiovisual Heritage Day, Memories in Motion. Two out of 3 children in Africa are left out of secondary school. I believe that. They are in very bad condition. Protecting Libya's heritage. I'm not sure you want to do that. Sound like a smokescreen. Youth. Time for youth to speak up. Now they have all kinds of information on their little site. Well, here's something here. So let's just go ahead and watch their little video at the 36th UNESCO General Conference.
Excellencies, ministers, distinguished ambassadors, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great joy that I declare open the 36th session of the General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. And now I have the pleasure to hear the Director General. Madam Director General, you have the floor.
UNESCO's message is that humanity is also its own greatest renewable energy. We are together an endless wellspring of ingenuity. Half of the world's population is under the age of 25. We must release the potential they carry, and that is being held back. We must invest in the dignity and the capacity of every girl and boy, every woman and man, to strengthen the grounds for peace and for sustainable development. This starts with education. It starts with culture. It starts with sciences, with communication. This is what UNESCO stands for. This is why UNESCO was created. At this defining moment, I call on your support and on your vision, and I make an appeal for unity. We must share. It is not enough to cooperate. We must build together a better and more sustainable future for the benefit of all. This is the sense of my appeal for a new humanism as the compass guiding UNESCO's action.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my honor to invite the President of the 36th General Session of the General Conference to take a seat.
Our question is, how can we honor each other's homeland, language, culture, and participating together to make the world a better place for the human, for the future generation? We can start, I think, by emphasizing our cultural diversity rather than our cultural differences. Cultural diversity includes the particular qualities that each nation brings to the expression of its identity. It enriches the greater whole and is something to be celebrated. Cultural differences imply division and are often used as an excuse to explain why nothing can change. I believe that cultural differences should never become an excuse for our inability to reach global understanding. We must remind ourselves that there are no cultural differences in the fundamental values of human life. We all want to belong and feel safe, to contribute and be appreciated, and to be able to provide for our children.
Well, sounds good. But when you peel back the layers, you find out there's something else underneath there that they weren't telling you. And so, I haven't finished reading all the document either. But from skimming what I have and not having put a whole lot of time into the thought about it yet, just from what it seems to me, this November date is going to come and they're going to have their little tsunami warning practice test, and it's going to end up coming on a weird time number wise as far as the date goes. And we do have some other things, but I think that it's just going to be like New Madrid, so to speak. We have a date, we have a drill. We've already looked into some things about possible objects or object hitting in the water in the Pacific. So as they prepared for New Madrid with an earthquake drill and got a flood instead out of it. They could get something else out of this, but maybe it doesn't come on the exact date as New Madrid. Maybe it comes a little after that. We'll just have to see. We can't put it in reverse and back out and let everything happen, and then if the coast is clear, come back. We just have to be in it and hope that nothing happens. We do have 2005 YE55. It's going to be something that we can maybe see pretty good if we're looking, keeping our eyes peeled at the right times from wherever we're at. Just from what it looks like, it doesn't look like, when you really look at the orbit, the travel it's making, it doesn't look like it's going to hit us. It looks like it's going to be close, but we've got to go through it, see how we make it out. We take what we've learned from September and October and all through, ever since March to now, what has happened, what has not happened, and we use it to get better, to be able to forecast these things better and not always jump in head first. So this is something to go into, and I'm going to look more into it. I'm sure everybody else will. It's interesting. And it's a UN deal, so it is a little bit different than something that would be just a US deal. So we have the date, November, and we already knew that the 8th through the 11th, were key dates. So this stuff being thrown in there just adds to it of what we already had talked about along that date line. I hope I've piqued some interest in UNESCO, and that maybe I can get some other people to download the file and get some more minds in on this to make sure exactly what this thing is. But it looks to me like it's just going to be from what I've skimmed, it looks to me like it's just going to be a practice. So let's not jump to the conclusion that we're going to get an impact in the water. Although that could potentially happen at some point. I'm not saying that it won't. I'm not saying that it will. I'm just saying that it hasn't now. I haven't seen anything that looks like it's going to. Not now. And it's interesting to see this little thing here. Now, we're going to go to this guy. The Mike Bo 2's channel. Well, this guy here, I don't know what got into him, but the video about the 6.7 and 6.1 earthquake, well, he just come on and he said some things. I wrote him back. I told him, I didn't say what you said I did. You did. So, I don't know exactly what your point was, but this is who you are. And he has no uploads. Not very much action going on. 3 subscribers. 11 subscriptions. He has some channel comments. He says about me, I love God, my wife, my family, I like to fish and play golf, I like computer games, lately, crisis. "51 years old, supposedly. He loves God so much he comes on people's channel and says things that are not true." And then I noticed down here at the bottom of his recent activity, which would be 1 week ago, the Mike Bow 2 commented on Comet Elenon, capital LMAO. "Like the video, I got much the same reaction, especially Mr. Comet Watch. That guy is a fear whore." So, Mike Bow said, "I love God," and then you find this on his page. So, let's see. Anything else? Anything else that people need to see about you? So, you can also see sent. This is sent. And this is his name right here. So you can see I sent him a mail after he wrote what he wrote and acted like he did and said the things that weren't true that I didn't say. And the title of what I sent him was, "You're going to be in the movies." And that's what I told you. You know, if you like to come on and say things that aren't true and do your thing, then I just put you in a video, man, and let people know about you. And that way, if you come to their place and do like that, well, they will have already heard about you. And now they have. And I don't know if you're just a regular Joe that does this and gets off on doing things like this, or if you're just flat out a shill. I think it's a little mixture of all whenever I get certain people like this. But I also have a little belief that there's certain people that have more than one YouTube name channel. And I think that there's certain people that use multiple names to go do things exactly like this. Well, I've got some names rolling around, could be, but I think it's just a mixture of all. Because there truly is some shills on YouTube, that is for sure. And this one is the Chemtrails. This is from today. Let's see, they're pretty short. And I'll go ahead. I believe this one was right before I was going to work. And I was walking out, and there's a big giant one that plowed. That was fresh. Or not fresh, but it'd been there a while, and it extended all the way past those trees. And you could see how long it was, and it just... You can see how it flattened and just spread out all the way there. And they had that other trail laid down. And this one here, this next one, is whenever I stopped at the store to get a Coke. And it's kind of, sort of looking at the same one, except from a different angle. And you can see a little more length to it, and how it goes into that other one that's already spread out. So that one had been there a while. And this one here was at work, and I had moved my truck and was walking back in. I noticed they had shot another one. And this direction would be over to the northeast area. and I didn't have very much time on my hands. I just walking back in, I had the camera in my back pocket, so I pulled it out and shot it. And that's the only one I could see right then and there with the time that I had to really look. So, what do you think? Are you interested in UNESCO and looking into that? I kind of advise people to kind of associate themselves with a little learning on the UN and doing a little reading every now and then. It never hurts to update all the agenda of potentially who the enemy is. If the enemy is the United Nations or an arm of it, then you want to know all about them. You want to know what they're telling you, and then you want to think of all the things that they're not telling you. And if they have weaknesses, you want to find out what those are. You know, hold your enemy close to you. That's the best way to keep an eye on them, so to speak. And as far as the earthquakes go, I've already looked, and I believe they did have a 6.0 in the Fiji area and a 4.9, I believe it was. No, I believe it was a 4.4 after the 6.0. And I think it was Vanuatu had the 4.9. And then a 4.6 in the Kuril Island area. So it was just those four, and you only had that one that was a 6.0. So if it had been any 5s or anything, I would have had and brought up the browser and showed you. So just so you know, there was a 6 in the Fiji area. And with that, I'll let everybody go and get this uploaded so y'all can start thinking about this little thing that's come up on the November about this this little drill for the tsunami warning, and see what you think. Let me know. God bless y'all. I'm almost done with the week. A couple more days and have a little time off. I'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye.